Let me translate. What it means when a leader casually says, they're going to ignore the rules of engagement. That's not toughness. That's not strategy. That's a warning siren for a country that's about to lose its mind. The rules of war weren't written because people were naive. They were written because humanity watched entire cities burn in the 20th century and said, never again. The United States helped create the Geneva Conventions precisely so war would not turn into a free-for-all slaughter of civilians. So when an American leader starts talking like the rules don't apply anymore, that's not bold leadership. That's the language of every regime we used to condemn. You know what cowardice in war actually looks like? It looks like flattening neighborhoods and pretending it's heroism. It looks like bombs falling on apartment blocks and someone calling it victory. Real soldiers fight soldiers. Real militaries target forces, not families. Carpet bombing civilians is not bravery. It's what happens when a government decides it's easier to destroy. A city then confront the consequences of its own strategy. And Americans are supposed to clap for that? Absolutely not. Because the moment the United States openly shrugs at the laws of war, we lose the one thing that actually made our power legitimate: restraint. The difference between a professional military and a barbaric one is simple. One follows rules even when it's hard. The other claims that rules are for everyone else. And history is very clear about what happens to countries that decide they're above the law. They stop being republics. They start acting like empires that have forgotten who they are. Look around the world. When cities are flattened in Ukraine under Vladimir Putin, the world calls it brutality. When civilians are trapped under bombardment in Gaza during the war led by Benjamin Netanyahu, the world argues about morality, proportionality, and justice. But if America starts speaking the same language, if we start saying the rules don't matter, then we lose the right to pretend we're different. And that should scare every American more than any foreign enemy. Because the real collapse of a country doesn't start with bombs. It starts when leaders convince people that law no longer matters, that war crimes are just tactics, that civilians are just collateral, that conscience is weakness. That is not the voice of a confident democracy. That is the voice of a nation flirting with its own moral collapse. America was supposed to be better than that. Not perfect, but better. And if our leaders start talking like the laws of war are optional, then the real question isn't what kind of war we're fighting. The real question is what kind of country we're becoming.